Welcome to Smash Fiction, the podcast where we pit two or more nerd characters against one another in a battle of strength, or wits, or the pipes necessary to rock all the best Disney songs, and see who would win. This week, Ursula versus Jafar versus Dr. Facilier versus Hades. King Stefan is ever so slightly freaked out, but he's pretty sure it's just deja vu. After all, the last time his castle hosted a massive party where guests showed up from across the land, it didn't go well. Fairies, curses, spinning wheels, it was a whole big thing. But it's fine, Stefan tells himself. It's fine. That was like 16 years ago, Maleficent is dead, all of this is just butterflies in his stomach because his daughter Aurora is finally actually marrying King Hubert's son Philip. And today, in a joint marriage and coronation ceremony, the happy couple will officially become the heirs to the throne and secure the future of the great kingdom of Germany? Anyway, just deja vu, butterflies, everything's gonna be fine. And everything is fine, for the most part. Aurora and Philip are married, they get shiny crowns. The good fairies are getting a little tipsy, it's all going great. Stefan has just finished dancing with his wife and is going for some more wine when he overhears from across the ballroom some sort of commotion at the door. "Don't tell me I'm not on the list," a voice is saying from outside. "This is my invitation. I've had it for weeks. I already missed the ceremony because of the guards at the castle gate. Why don't you talk to them? I went through this whole process with them an hour ago." Stefan feels something in his guts clench. He turns slowly in the direction of the conversation. "Name again, please, sir," the guard on the door asks tonelessly. The would-be attendant sighs deeply. "For the last time, it's Boltman. Brad Boltman. Like it says on the invitation, which, again, is right here." Stefan feels the encroachment of a deep, creeping dread. He makes his way toward the door, weaving through revelers and partygoers, leaving spilled drinks and affronted expressions in his wake. "You're not on the list, sir," the guard drones. "It's against my orders to let you in. Sorry about the mix-up, but if you send a messenger to our customer service department..." "I've tried that before!" The late-coming Boltman sounds like a man who isn't frustrated. Oh no, frustrated was what he had been an hour ago. What he is now is dangerously close to the breaking point. "Every messenger I send comes back saying they couldn't get through to anyone with authority, just a bunch of scribes who spout the exact same useless responses, like some kind of automatons. This happens every time I try to attend castle functions, and I'm getting sick and tired of it. I pay my crippling taxes and my annual donkey to the state, and I expect at least an ounce of respect." Stefan breaks into a sweat. Then he breaks into a run, shoving aside a baffled King Hubert, the final obstacle in his path. "I'm sorry, sir. Your patronage is important to us, but that is our policy. If you'd like to fill out some paperwork..." "Guard!" Stefan yells desperately, knowing in his heart that it's too late. "Stop! Just let him in!" "No! You know what?" Boltman cries. "Screw you! I'm putting a curse on this stupid kingdom of..." It is Germany, isn't it? Just going by the architecture. I mean, whatever. "Your realm is now the richest prize for any evil witch, magician, genie, or god who likes the idea of conquest and pillage. And your status as mystical douchebag magnet ain't gonna end until one of them finally claims your throne and takes a gigantic magical dump on it. So have fucking fun. The great wizard Boltman has spoken." And with that, the previously unknown proclaimer of arcane vengeance against royal bureaucracy vanishes in a cloud of brimstone and indignation. A week has passed since then, and nothing has happened. Most people have dismissed the so-called curse as the overly theatrical ravings of a lunatic. Only King Stefan is still spooked over the incident, and both the Queen and King Hubert insist that all he needs is a vacation. Finally, Stefan allows that after all the stress of the past decade and a half, some R&R certainly couldn't hurt. Within a matter of days, kings and queens alike are off to ye olde couples retreat, leaving Philip and Aurora, along with their good fairy guardians, which eases Stefan's mind somewhat, in charge. Which suits the sea witch Ursula, the voodoo magician Dr. Facilier, the power-crazed genie Jafar, and Hades, god of the underworld, just fine. Which Disney villain can trick, cajole, enchant, or just plain smash their way to the throne of, yeah, we're just gonna go with Germany? I know the answer to that question, like I know where Sleeping Beauty is supposed to be set, so I, Miles Schneiderman, will be your curse-breaking judge this week. Representing Ursula is Kit Mulcairn.
"I admit that in the past I've been a feisty. They weren't kidding when they called me, well, a bitch." But you'll find that nowadays I use it to amaze, debate on this podcast, and roleplay Stitch. Ooh.
Aw, yay!
Poor unfortunate hosts. They beg. They plead. This one wants me to stop yelling. That one hates when I cut in. And do I listen? Bitch, please. I'm just gonna drop this mic. Hold on a second.
There we go.
Yeah, please do. Absolutely.
You can just make a sound effect. You don't actually have to drop it.
Representing Jafar is Dan Mulcairn.
I should have spent my third wish on some decent competition.
Oh!
Representing Dr. Facilier is Megan Bob.
I've got bullshit. I've got nonsense. I got slash fic. I ain't even tried. And I've got smash fiction friends on the other side.
And representing Hades is Colin Mulcairn.
Memo to me, maim you during this match.
In order to determine who goes first, I ordered the advocates to engage in classic Madame Mim-style magical combat, with each of them turning into increasingly deadly animals in an attempt to one-up their opponents. Bob figured she'd start small and work her way up, so she was like, "Ooh, I'm a horse, rawr!" At which point, Kit, who had been doing way too much Ursula research and was now obsessed with super powerful tentacled things, threw the curve out the window and was like, "Fuck you, I'm the Kraken!"
That's what I would do, yeah.
Dan, who, of course, knows his Harryhausen, countered this by turning into the head of Medusa,
Hell yeah.
but Colin turned into a virus and won because that's how this game works. So,
Can I do the Sandman thing and turn into Hope?
no. Remember, the Sandman is concepts, Madame Mim is animals, buddy.
Ah, you're right. Damn it.
Did I say no concepts, Merlin? Did I?
So, Colin will be going first, followed by Dan, and then Kit, and then Megan Bob. Colin, am I an audience or a mosaic?
Back in the early days of this podcast, I put forth this rule that comparing your character to a god is not allowed. It's a lazy argument, it's non-specific, it's hyperbolic. Dropping the G word in Smash Fiction is like calling someone a Nazi when they are not in fact a Nazi. But for the sake of argument, and what do we do here that isn't for the sake of argument, what if you're actually talking about real Nazis? Are you allowed to say Nazi then? I think maybe you are? Believe me, I really don't want to call Hades that word, but I gotta tell you, man, if any character I ever represented deserved to be called the G word, it might be Hades, and I don't just mean because he actually is canonically a god, I mean because Hades might be one of the strongest characters we've ever talked about on Smash Fiction. I think he might be on the highest level of Smash Fiction characters, even stronger than a god. I think he might be comparable to a Blizzard villain.
Oh.
Ursula only gets real powers after she steals King Trident's trident. Without the trident, her magic isn't that impressive, and it requires time and components and apparently sometimes a song. Jafar has phenomenal cosmic power, but do I even need to finish the rest of that sentence? There are all sorts of restrictions and liabilities that come with being a genie, like having all of your power tied to a lamp, and then leaving that lamp right next to a pool of lava where it can easily be kicked by nearby parrots. Would that make it a lava lamp?
Oh.
Ouch.
Dr. Facilier can only get his hands on real magic when fulfilling someone else's wishes, or by first bargaining with his dark masters like a kid who wants to borrow his mom's car for the weekend. And those masters that he bargains with are Loa, minor spirits of voodoo, more akin to an angel or a saint than a bona fide card-carrying member of the Olympian pantheon like my boy Hades. Hades' powers are orders of magnitude stronger than anything else being wielded by any of his competitors. First up, he's immortal, he doesn't age, he's almost impossible to hurt, and he cannot be killed. He gets covered in lava from the Fire Titan and he is unharmed, he gets flash frozen by the Ice Titan and breaks out moments later, again unharmed. And mind you, these are full-on magical attacks from the Titans, Godzilla-sized creatures who are older and more powerful than even the Olympians. Kit, I defer to you on this. Is that a G word that I'm allowed to invoke?
I'm sorry, which word?
Godzilla?
Only with the utmost respect.
Okay.
So watch yourself.
In the animated series, whenever mortals try to attack Hades through non-magical means, he doesn't even seem to notice. Also, Hades has pyrokinesis, making him the only villain in the group with a directed energy attack. It's quick, powerful, long range, and seemingly limitless. If this match ever does come down to a straight fight, it will end very shortly and very badly for the other three villains in this match. And Hades has a lot of other powers too. He can become intangible, he has telekinesis, which is powerful enough to weaponize a giant barbell and fling it at Hercules. And mind you, this was a barbell that Phil was using to train Hercules Hercules, who has superhuman strength, and so presumably it weighed at least several tons. He has long-range teleportation, he can create or possibly summon solid inanimate objects out of thin air whenever he wants, like when he makes a throne for himself in a martini when he takes over Olympus, or that one time when he summoned a flying chariot that was pulled by a freaking black dragon. He has a stable of dozens, if not hundreds of monsters ready to be deployed on Aurora and Philip's kingdom in a Peloponnesian minute. Monsters like harpies, gorgons, minotaurs, sea serpents, cyclopses, hydras. Oh yeah, and then there's Cerberus. Am I out of time yet? Because I'm not out of monsters. Now, let's talk mental game real quick. I'm sure that my competitors today will talk about how Hades is a blunt instrument, fond of blindly throwing monsters at a problem rather than formulating a plan, and how their characters will sidle up to Aurora and Philip and make some sort of deal that will allow them to take over the kingdom without needing to compete with Hades' magical firepower. That's all well and good, except y'all don't think that Hades is going to be working that angle too? Hades is at the very least as charming and as devious as the other three competitors here, if not more so, given that he has a longer and more impressive history of tricking people into signing their souls into servitude. His deviousness can be seen in the simple fact that Zeus, a being that Hades refers to as his sworn nemesis, seems quite fond of him and doesn't suspect him of being evil. When Hades finally betrays the other Olympians and captures them, Zeus says to him, "Hades, you're behind this!" implying that neither Zeus nor any of the gods saw this betrayal coming. Another example of his charm can be seen in his meeting with the three fates when Hades convinces them through charm and flattery to violate their own divine edict and reveal the future to him. Several times in the TV series, Hades tricks people into dark magical contracts, like in the episode Hercules and the Gorgon, when Medusa calls upon the gods for help and both Hades and Aphrodite appear before her and end up in a bidding war to present a better contract to her. And guess what? Hades, through picking up on Medusa's psychological weaknesses and tailoring his offer to them, ends up presenting a more tempting offer than Aphrodite does and binds Medusa into his service. Keep that in mind if any of you other villains decide to try to outdeal Hades. The Lord of the Dead has been playing the game longer, his stack of chips is way bigger than yours. Also, being Lord of the Dead, he has the ability to bring people back from the dead. Suck it, Jafar. That's a very good carrot to dangle in front of a mortal in order to make them do your bidding. Ursula is first defeated by a seagull, and then a dog, and then a boat. Jafar is defeated after getting bamboozled by a very suave hobo, and later by the aforementioned parrot and the aforementioned lava. Dr. Facilier's shadow minions that he had to beg and plead for were defeated by a firefly, and Facilier himself was defeated by two frogs. Hades is only defeated in true ancient Greek fashion by a literal deus ex machina when Hercules becomes a god moments before he can be killed by the River of Souls, and unlike all the other competitors assembled here, Hades does not die at the end of his movie because he can't, because he's a god. A real one. I'm just as disappointed as all of you are about this, but that's just how it is.
Well, thank you for that, Team Hades. Dan, gotta say, I love the way your foul little mind works.
Aw, shucks. Let me introduce you to my boy Jafar. You know Jafar, right? He's a genie. That means phenomenal cosmic power. Reality warping on a Franklin Richards scale. Seriously, his powers let him do so much. There are 3 limits on a genie's power. They can't kill, they can't make people fall in love, and they can't bring people back from the dead. This means they can do literally anything else. And we see in Return of Jafar that the no-killing rule has a Cave of Wonders-sized loophole. Jafar teleports Abyss Maul into the depths of the ocean and opens up a lava-filled crevice directly beneath Aladdin. So clearly, there's a lot of wiggle room in that rule. So yeah, as a genie and with some creative interpretation of the rules, Jafar can do basically anything. But of course, before he was a genie, he was a sorcerer. Sorry, did I say a sorcerer? I meant the sorcerer, as in the world's most powerful sorcerer, and that is canon, my dudes. His sorcerer's powers allow him to breathe fire, summon objects and people, change himself into a giant snake, transform people into inanimate objects, and use telekinesis strong enough to throw a gigantic palace tower to the other side of the planet. This means that even without his genie mojo, he has way more magical power and knowledge than any of the chumps here today. But of course, Jafar wasn't always a genie, nor was he always a sorcerer. Before all that, he was just a guy. A guy who was intelligent enough to get noticed by the Sultan and get a job as his most trusted vizier, arguably the second most powerful person in Agrabah. A guy who was patient and crafty enough to get this job, despite secretly harboring a burning ambition to become Sultan himself by any means necessary. This is the guy who gets Aladdin arrested and then manipulates him into going to the Cave of Wonders. The guy who somehow managed to convince the palace guard to knock out and murder visiting royalty. The guy who later manages to slip out of the grip of the palace guard by using a concealed smoke bomb. Jafar is just as clever, manipulative, strategic, and patient as he's ever been, but now he has numerous levels of absurd power at his disposal. Now, here's how Jafar wins this. I'm not sure exactly how the Black Lamp ends up in the ambiguously European kingdom of Sleeping Beauty, but once anyone finds it and rubs it, Jafar's plan begins. Thank you. Remember how easily Jafar manipulates his master, Abyss Mal, in Return of Jafar? He tricks Mal into needlessly using up his first 2 wishes, meaning that Mal had to go along with Jafar's plans in order to avoid wasting his final wish. With these skills, Jafar can easily make his way to the royal palace and get an audience with the king and queen. He will reveal his nature as a genie and offer his services. The royals, dealing with 3 other evil forces trying to take over, will gladly accept his help. Even the good fairies would vouch for him. After all, if they know anything about genies, it's that they're creatures of both great power and servitude. All Jafar requests in exchange is that, once the other villains have been dispatched, the royals use their final wish to free him. Any monsters, minions, or creatures that the other villains use will be easily dispatched by Jafar's cosmic power. Jafar's experience with spells, magical items, alchemy, and divination, plus his powers as both a genie and a sorcerer, mean that the other villains can't possibly pull anything over on him, and he can recognize and dispel any enchantment, illusion, or tricks the competition try to put forward. His lamp will be well protected not only by his own powers and spells, but by the royals and the good fairies alike, meaning that arguably his biggest weakness is a non-issue. The lucky villains will be the ones who realize that this is a lost cause and run off. The unlucky ones will think they can take on the most powerful being on Earth and will find themselves sorely lacking. In the end, the kingdom will be saved, and the royals will gratefully wish for Jafar to be free. Of course, relieved of his burden of servitude, still in possession of his genie powers, and suddenly able to kill directly, Jafar will waste no time in taking the throne for himself. You guys can keep your fish and your dolls and your idiot imp minions. I'll go ahead and take the win.
Great arguments from Team Jafar. Kit, what I want from you is your voice. Hopefully telling me how awesome Ursula is.
Your Honor, my client practically deserves the throne of whatever the fuck Kingdom Sleeping Beauty takes place in. First of all, she'll probably get there first. You know, Fantasy Denmark shares a sea with Fantasy Germany. She can ride a current in a sea creature, Finding Nemo style. Meanwhile, Dr. Facilier's got a long boat ride. Hades has to drag his ass out of Greek hell before he can even catch the next sky chariot. And Jafar needs to hope someone finds his lamp and then transports his wispy ass through a desert and over a sea. Ursula's also clearly shown to have divination powers via magic crystal ball. This magical convenience allowed her to see that Ariel was her ticket to revenge and power, and will give her an edge in finding the weak link of this new vulnerable kingdom. And just what is that weak link? Why, it's the naivete and anxieties of being a teenager, all the more amplified by being in a setting and position that puts pressure on maintaining power through progeny. Duh. Sure, Aurora and Philip are probably, they're married, they're happy. So not really any manipulation potential there, but they gotta get busy with making them kids, right? Using all manner of oceanic ingredients, Ursula could easily concoct a potion to make either Aurora or Philip temporarily infertile. Then you send a flotsam or a jetsam in the form of some terrestrial animal to deliver the stuff, and boom, abercontraception. The fairy godmothers are unable to reverse powerful magic, which will leave the perfect opening for a mysterious stranger named Vanessa to come to the kingdom's aid. This Vanessa will pose a deal. Aurora will trade her beautiful singing voice as the price for the spell, while Prince Philip has 3 days to acquire a magical trident from an evil merking back in Fantasy Denmark that will be necessary in completing the ritual. Don't think she fucking forgot about that. So Philip is probably going to die out at sea, but even if those stupid fairies help him and he makes it back, Ursula can transmute Briar Rose into an actual rose, then impersonate her using the newly acquired voice. And then she'd have the trident too. Because you see, shitty deals and transmutation magic are Ursula's thing. And if that wasn't enough, she can also bewitch people like she did with Prince Eric, completely hypnotizing those troublesome free wills out of her way. People like Dr. Facilier, who's really just a guy messing with the power source that's waiting for him to fuck up so he can drag him to hell. And if a Firefly's ass can deal with his shadowy friends, well, they might want to hide from Hades' lava titan buddy. Speaking of Hades, how long has that dude been a god? Is he capable of thinking up a strategy besides throw a monster at my problems? Is Hades the least god mode god around? Is that why Colin was okay with representing a literal god this time? If Philip and his trio of meddling fairies can skewer Maleficent, Hades' band of Greek mythos rejects will be thwarted just the same. And finally, Jafar. Is Ursula supposed to be intimidated by a creature already bound by a powerful spell? Because seriously, show the fuck up, I dare you. The only reason Genie Jafar was able to make it as far as he did in the movie Return of Jafar was because a cowardly idiot found the lamp. Ursula's no derp. Once she figures out how that whole genie thing works, she'll swipe the lamp, use it for 3 wishes, 1, 2, 3, and Jafar is back to being trapped in the lamp. Bye, Felicia. Thanks for the god powers. Time to show Hades and this pathetic little kingdom how evil is really done.
Whew. All right. Thank you for that, Team Ursula. Bob, it's the green, it's the green, it's the green I need. But in my future, all I see are your opening arguments. So hopefully they're money.
So, I was operating under the assumption, for some reason, I made up my own round, that King Stefan was dead, I guess, but whatever.
Well, he's away.
What
He's
the
gone.
fuck ever.
You know that Megan Bob doesn't have any object permanence, right?
No, I assume if people, that's why I'm so excited whenever I hear from you guys each week, because I'm like, oh, thank God they're alive. Okay, so, royal vacations, not funerals, a kingdom in upheaval, teenagers with crowns, what's next? Voodoo dolls playing the drums, that's what. Dr. Facilier is, much to all of our surprise, the best suited to get his hooks into the kingdom in a way that will work. It won't be the most overpowering takeover, admittedly. No enormous monsters making the fairies suspicious, no trying to break up the royal couple with shapeshifting into a hot person, no being bound to the first willing accomplice that grabs your lamp and then trying to destroy the palace. Dr. Facilier is a stealthy free agent who moves behind the scenes. Like a shadow, one might say. Let's get this out of the way. He is not weak just because his magic is based on cooperation with Loa. On the contrary, he is a fucking networker extraordinaire. I mean, how good does your LinkedIn profile have to be that you can get powerful voodoo spirits to work, help you out? Those friends on the other side are something special, especially compared to Flotsam and Jetsam, who have to stay in the water, Pain and Panic, who lie to their boss, and Iago, who changes alignments for some reason? Sure, they may drag you to the other side eventually, but they hold up their end of the bargain. And don't forget Shadowfriend, who sneaks around silently, but still affects the physical world, poltergeist style. Dr. Facilier is the only human in this bunch of powerhouses. The other villains probably won't pay attention to him and may never even notice him, because he's a lurker. Certainly no one in New Orleans notices him. That leaves him free to hustle some schmucks while the others are passive or making a mess. People seek out Ursula with problems. People seek out Hades to strike a bargain. People rub the lamp and expect a compliant wish machine, if not Christina Aguilera or Barbara Eden. Dr. Facilier, that was an old show, folks. Dr. Facilier doesn't wait around for opportunities. He makes them. He'll listen to the gossip and listen to the local herald's announcements like he cunningly reads the newspaper in The Princess and the Frog. He'll see the dynamics in play and then strike. Offering a victim. I hate you all.
Nice adverb usage, by the way, describing how he reads these in the newspaper.
I mean, it struck
Thank
me
you.
as being
Also,
cunning.
You're welcome. Okay. This is my vampire kiss. Okay. Okay. Offering a victim just what the magic cards say they want most. Merryweather is actually a good target for this. She's the most insecure and the most easily frustrated of the good fairies. She's my favorite, and I hate to say it, but she's a weak link, and Facilier will spot that and exploit it. Ursula requires a crystal bubble and Ariel swimming right to her doorstep before she can get it together to make a move. It takes Hades multiple sweeping tries before he can figure out how to get to her. Jafar, well, he's already in power and has dissension from Jasmine and the Sultan, even with that in place, and he never does figure out how to motivate people to do what he wants successfully, like kill that pesky street rat for him. Dr. Facilier seals the deal within minutes of meeting Naveen and Lawrence, because he's a salesman. He sells people exactly what they want, and then he's got them. This is a kingdom in crisis. I mean, people are on vacation. This doesn't work anymore.
I'm seeing the slight alterations you've had to make, Bob.
No, it's gonna get better. How many people will have things they want? Oh, everyone. To be a good king, to be a good queen, to be a better fairy, to have her parents back from the dead.
Now I'm just imagining that Aurora, for some reason, thinks that her dad died.
boys on vacation.
You think that's actually what happened in Frozen? Like they just went on vacation for a while and everyone just freaked out.
Oh my god,
They come
so many
back and
Disney
they're like,
movies,
"What
the
the
parents
fuck?"
are just on vacation. Okay, alright, so her parents back from the dead. Oh, he'll offer that up on a plate, and when he shakes their hand, it'll only sting for a second. Ultimately, though, this is a Disney movie, and I'm not gonna try and pretend this is the real world, because it isn't. Disney logic is the only logic that applies. Disney logic dictates that, Cinderella style, Dr. Facilier will be overlooked. The one who works the hardest. Others will underestimate him and doubt his commitment to evil, but he'll show them. One by one, you will sell his competitors their dreams, and for a price, they'll get him, leaving him standing. And most importantly to any Disney logic, the songs. Jafar had that song in Return of Jafar, and if you're into knockoff Broadway, it's fine. Hades has no songs. Then there's Ursula. Look, Your Honor, I am not here to tell you that Poor Unfortunate Souls isn't a fucking banger.
Good.
We have ears, and I won't insult you by pretending otherwise.
Thank you.
I ask you, though, if it comes to musically wowing, which is a vital Disney skill, Friends on the Other Side is catchy, sexy, has backup singing from masks, and will blow the 14th century minds of these people. They have never even heard an instrument. Anything even...
Yeah, you can't call lutes instruments. That's just garbage.
Yeah. They've heard fucking trash junk noise. Anyway.
They definitely haven't heard Keith David before, so I'll give you that.
No, for sure.
No, Goliath went into the stone like 5 centuries before Sleeping Beauty takes place. So.
His tune is Funeral Brass meets George Gershwin meets Cab Calloway. His dance moves are like Michael Jackson if physics did not apply. His voice would make a nun break a sweat. And he dresses like Baron Samedi, the voodoo Loa of death, resurrection, rum, and cigars. It's going to be like Marty McFly playing Johnny B. Good at the prom. One song from that mustache mouth and he's won over the kingdom. Your logic and powers don't rate next to that. Forget it, guys. It's Disney Town.
Oh, man. Beautiful argument from underneath from Team Facilier there. It is now time for rebuttals, and just as a reminder to everyone, in the 4-way matches, the way the rebuttals work is we will go down the line to each character. Everybody will have 1 point they can make. The advocate defending the character under attack will be able to respond to that 1 point, and then we will move on. Everybody, time to rebut all over Hades.
Hades may technically be a god, but let's be clear, not all gods were created equal. Like, we see this in Hercules where Hades is the only god who doesn't have a visible aura of power. At the end of the movie, you say that he's defeated when Hercules punches him. No, he's defeated when he gets dragged down a soul toilet by, like, 3 ghosts. Like, that's a few steps shy of omnipotence, my dude. Oh, and also, I wish Hades wasn't a god. Boom.
What?
Can you wish yourself? Anyway, go ahead.
I don't think you
Colin.
can do that.
It doesn't fall into one of the 3
Yeah,
categories.
I think you can. I think you can wish that he's mortal.
Okay, but the genie can't wish himself free.
No, but he could convince Aurora to do it.
First up, Hades does have a glowing aura. It's just all coming out of his fire hair. He just like concentrated all of his magical energy, which most people just have spread throughout their skin, just onto his dome because he's bald and he wants hair. So you have to like focus all of the magic
So you're saying
there.
he's not a god, but his hair is.
Yes. I just find the phrase soul toilet really funny. That's
Yeah,
really
it's
good.
really good.
I mean,
what it is.
He does get pulled down into the soul toilet because he got punched in the face by Hercules and he's like a little dazed, but he's gonna get out in like a minute.
My biggest beef about Hades is he relies on servants that he knows are incompetent to do his dirty work. And because of that, he fucks up his plans over and over and over and over again. I don't think this dude could manage a Burger King successfully.
Whoa!
You gotta know how to fire when to hire, right? Get some new fucking imps.
So
Pull some people out of your soul toilet. I'm sure one of them knows what they're doing.
The soul toilet is just a hiring bonanza down there.
What the argument I'm going to put forth here is sort of like a strength of competition one. Pain and Panic are usually capable of doing whatever Hades needs him to do. I think that the only time that his minions can't do the job for him is when he's fighting somebody who's like kind of, a bit stronger than him, which is somebody like, Hercules. Dealing with this kingdom, it's just like humans. It's just, and like the fairies who are fine, but they're no Hercules.
He got the fucking fates to tell him exactly what he had to do to get his plan to work. Exact instructions. It was precise, and he's like, done. All right, I can make this happen. And he couldn't kill a fucking baby. The most defenseless thing there is. Facilier would eat a baby if he had to.
Just waiting for the other shoe to drop on that one.
Not because he wanted to, just because, shit got to get done in New Orleans.
Just because it's a Saturday.
I
he's been good this week.
It's a little treat baby.
Is a baby like your cheat day meal?
Yeah.
I will point out Hercules, who is greatest hero of all time, according to the muses, who was a baby at the time, but still had his Hercules strength. So, it was Hercules. It was not a baby. It was not any baby.
He was definitely a baby.
It is now time for everybody to gang up on Dan and take down Genie Jafar.
The actual person who ends up defeating Jafar most times is himself, I would like to point out. Jafar, more so than any of the villains here, is definitely the kind who falls into all the little dumb traps on the evil overlord list of just leaving heroes for dead and assuming everything went to plan, capturing people and then just walking away, or there's so many times, at least 4 or 5 times throughout the course of the first 2 movies where he assumes that Aladdin has died and just walks away and leaves everything according to plan. Jafar does not have a keen eye for details and tying up loose ends.
Okay, look, we're all Disney villains here. Let's get that out of the way right now. We all have some pretty embarrassing moments, right? Hades is totally uncreative and inflexible, and he gets flushed down a soul toilet at the end of the movie. Facilier keeps getting schooled by a frog when he forgets that frogs have long, sticky tongues. Ursula seems to believe that growing into a giant target will somehow make her immune to boats. We all do dumb things.
Would you expect to be stabbed by a boat? Would you?
You're basically saying that, Dr. Evils shouldn't throw sharks with lasers attached to their heads? Is that what you're saying?
That's more or less what I'm saying. We all have our downsides. Jafar's isn't that he gloats or that he overlooks stuff. It's that, in his case, he has to kill indirectly, except when he doesn't, when he teleports people into the ocean. We're all Disney villains. Let's not pretend that none of us have any weird, glaring, plot-convenient psychological weaknesses from time to time.
Jafar, you have a real anger management problem, and it does not do you any favors. There was that time whenever you got really upset because Aladdin was like, oh, you're not that powerful, so you decided to be a genie, and then you got locked in the lamp. And then there was the time later on whenever things weren't going your way, so you decided to destroy the town you really wanted to take over and rule. You're like, oh, if I can't have it, no one can. And I'm sorry, but your resume is going down the soul toilet now.
Look, there's plenty of other towns out there, right? Agrabah is essentially the Arabian asshat, is what that comes down to. Did you see the political and economic inequality in that city? How many people are living under sheets while Jasmine and the Sultan are living in that gorgeous ornamented palace? I think Jafar was actually improving that city, if you ask me.
I don't think the common folk would agree. I don't think wrecking the town is how common folk...
He didn't wreck the town, he just wrecked the palace garden. He just opened up a bunch of crevices there. It's fine.
I don't buy that the fairies would trust Jafar. They have seen evil magical users before. They're gonna see Jafar's sharp edges and be like, oh, that looks like a Maleficent.
You can trust me. I'm your best friend, Jafar.
The thing about the fairies, they know Maleficent better than anyone else, and they're willing to give her the benefit of the doubt at the beginning of Sleeping Beauty. They're like, okay, maybe she'll be fine.
Yeah,
maybe we can let her get close enough to Aurora, and she'll actually give her a gift. In this case, they know that Jafar is a genie, which, as I mentioned, they know he's a creature of servitude. They know his whole thing is that he grants wishes, and he'll say, all he wants is to be free. They have no reason to mistrust him when they have a weird octopus witch and this voodoo practitioner and the god of the underworld, all trying to chomp their flavor. Like, Jafar is the only one who's blatantly trying to help them. He's going to be able to reveal who else is working in disguise. He's going to be their best ally, and the fairies would be stupid to turn his help down.
No, if you're claiming that they know that he's a genie, then they also know that genies are backstabbing spirits.
I mean, the blue genie from Aladdin wasn't.
Time for everybody to hit Ursula. Go.
Come at me!
I think Ursula works a little too subtly. Remember that her whole master plan in The Little Mermaid relies upon information that she had about Ariel, which was gathered by Flotsam and Jetsam? Unless Philip and Aurora spend a lot of time scuba diving during this match, she basically doesn't have any means of gathering information on them.
I disagree. I know that she has the disadvantage of being a water creature, but she clearly can come up on land. She can, like I said, she can transmute Flotsam and Jetsam. If you really feel like she needs to send her minions...
When does she do that?
She doesn't do it in the movie, but she's clearly shown to have transmutation magic.
A lot of these villains, when they're at their worst, are pretty bad with, like, psychological weaknesses, as Dan talked about. But I think the main thing I want to talk about with Ursula is that even at her best, she's not that impressive. Even though when she takes all the time to, like, make all of her rituals and stuff like this, even when we see her doing her magic in the TV show, I don't think she really ever does anything that's all that powerful. Nothing more powerful than something that, like, Hades could just do instantly.
You're right. She should totally keep throwing ineffective monsters and minions at her problems.
She really relies on people being extraordinarily desperate. She gets people at their lowest. How is she going to get somebody low enough that they're like, oh yeah, this deal sounds amazing? Because she doesn't offer shit for free like Facilier does. I mean, it's not for free, but he says it's for free. But Ursula up front just goes like, no, bitch, pay me. Who will take that? There's a better deal around the corner. Price shop.
Well, that's why I made my argument about her getting there first, and also leaning on the fact that she is a witch. She's been shown to be pretty underhanded. Like, she doesn't spin the truth. She'll flat out lie to people. So yeah, I can totally see her making Aurora and Philip's situation bad enough that they will turn to this not monstrous looking person, this very kind dark-haired woman that just so happened to come from over the sea. And
All right, time for everybody to come at Dr. Facilier.
I mean, hasn't he been through enough?
Facilier's enchantments are basically held together with spit and positive thinking. Because, like, all it takes is for a frog to grab a balloon, and then all of a sudden Facilier has to go begging to his friends on the other side for help. That's a crisis situation for him, is a frog grabbing a balloon.
In his defense. What were the fucking odds? I mean, look, there aren't even balloons in this time period of time.
okay. I mean, I feel like I made all my points against Facilier, but I guess I'll just add that, like, well, I guess if that's all it takes, Ursula will just change Flotsam and Jetsam into frogs, or maybe let's keep the long theme and she'll turn them into salamanders. Just keep up your amphibian burdens there.
No, wait, though, because, like, he does have some pet snakes that I did not mention, but he does have pet snakes that tie people up in the bows. And I bet snakes love to eat, like, little things. And, salamanders are little things.
But then, we could also just boop your snakes in the snoot. Boop it right in the snoot.
Oh, no, my snakes would not like that.
You guys were supposed to play the My Animal is Bigger Than Your Animal game during the initiative.
You talked about how he is, like, a good manipulator and he can, like, slide under the radar and he's going to have a lower profile than everybody else, but actually he is somewhat infamous in New Orleans. The reason that Naveen falls for him is because he is a foreigner. He's not from New Orleans. He doesn't know about what's going on there, but Tiana has actually heard of the Shadow Man, and when he gets brought up, he's like, oh, you're talking to the Shadow Man? You should not do that. He's a bad dude. Also, like, Mama Odie has heard of him, like, and I think even the Firefly had heard of him, and I think the alligator had heard of him. I think everybody had heard of him. So and they're all like, yeah, don't talk to that guy. Don't make deals with that guy. So I kind of feel like he's maybe not as good at staying under the radar as you think.
Okay, well, what I will say to that is he's from the future and they've never heard of him.
I mean, he is dressed very weird for this time period.
Well, he'll throw on, like, I don't know, what do they wear? Smocks. He'll throw on some smocks and, like, some dirt, and then he'll blend right in. There are no talking alligators or fireflies to, like, spread the word about him being shady.
He better hope there's no fireflies around, or else like all of his magic is just gonna fall apart.
Look, that firefly had a heart of purest gold. If you think you've got that and can bring it to me, then fine.
That was a stirring round of rebuttals, you guys. That was, I honestly don't even know who is gonna win this. Fortunately, to help me decide, there's always the lightning round.
Whoa! How dare you?
Is that Zeus? Because if so, I gotta go.
Yeah.
It's the day before all of your various evil plans are set to reach their final fruition, and you're super excited when suddenly there's a knock at the door of whatever lair you're currently calling home away from home. Standing on the other side is what appears to be a serving woman from the castle. Without preamble, the woman opens a scroll and reads the following proclamation. By order of the new rulers of We Actually Are Sure It's Germany, your presence is hereby requested in the Great Hall. We have much to discuss. This is an unexpected and unwelcome development, but somehow it intrigues each of these characters, to the extent that that evening all 4 Disney villains find themselves in attendance in the dim candlelight of a deserted Great Hall, awaiting the pleasure of someone. The serving woman who delivered the summons ushers the villains to their places, then stands back. Seems like this place is too poor to be worth the effort, Hades quips. Aren't there any other servants? Not anymore, the woman responds. Welcome. A new voice comes out of the darkness, accompanied by its owner, a woman dressed in dark robes, an immaculate hairdo, and a sinister smile. Who are you? Jafar demands. A better sorcerer than you could ever hope to be, genie or no, the woman responds. I am Morgana. I expect you've heard the name. They have, though none of them deigns to admit it. You were all plotting individually to take this castle and this throne, Morgana says. Unfortunately for you, it turns out that teamwork gets the job done faster, and we have beaten you to it. If you mean yourself and the other dead woman in this room, Ursula says, that's not much of a team. Oh, but it is, says another voice. The villains turn to find themselves face to face with what looks like a decrepit undead pirate with a beard made out of tentacles. For when the power of Davy Jones, King of the Seas, is brought to bear, there is nothing that cannot be accomplished. Psh! Hades makes a dismissive gesture. King of the Seas. My brother is King of the Seas, and there's literally nothing he can't accomplish because, like me, he's a god. Ah, but the divine powers so frequently seem to come down on both sides of a battle. Yet another newcomer enters the room, elaborately dressed in green and gold, with huge horns sweeping back from his helmet, and a scepter glowing blue in his hands. What kind of idiot walks in with massive headgear and a glowy staff, Jafar mutters to himself. I am Loki, of Asgard, and what we've all been wondering is, why were we all so unbelievably eager to conquer this place? And after putting our magic to the task of finding out, we have concluded that the 4 of us and the 4 of you represent 2 sides of a deliciously villainous coin. You are the old way, that of a mere 2 dimensions, outdated and obsolete. We are the new way, the way of stunning visuals and box office domination. Say that in battle, Dr. Facilier snarls uncharacteristically. My shadowy friends will ensure that you see everything there is to see on the other side. A distinct blazing sound suddenly fills the room, and the last of the darkness is banished by a bright red light. Don't try to frighten us with your sorcerous ways, Dr. Facilier, intones Darth Vader, who is just as over the multiversal space war as the rest of us. Your sad devotion to that ancient religion has not helped you conjure up the keys to this particular castle. What we propose is a contest to see which of our sides is truly stronger. What kind of contest, Ursula asks. In response, Morgana turns to the serving woman. Blue Perry, she cries, the time has come! Release the power we have stored within you and take your true form! In a blaze of white light, Blue Perry suddenly transforms into a shining, white-robed figure. Magic seems to pour off of her, and the floor of the Great Hall begins to stripe itself with lanes of ice. Behold, the Snow Queen, Morgana says. She was only ever an idea, really, but with our help, she has enough power to set the stage for our little game. The multiple lanes of ice suddenly slam together to become one massive rink. Ice of different colors rises in concentric circles at one end. The startled Disney villains suddenly find themselves holding brooms and standing in front of a pile of rocks with handles inserted at the top. The other team is similarly armed. The serving woman fades out of sight. Perhaps she was never really there at all. It doesn't matter. The great Disney villain curling championship has begun.
I have to look up
For
the
those
rules
of
to
you who
curling
don't know
now.
what this is, it's a Canadian sport where you have to basically throw rocks with handles in them down a lane of ice so they land as close to the bullseye of this kind of target at the end of the ice lane as possible. There's 4 people on a team. One person throws, the other person kind of directs the angles, and 2 people skate down next to the rock with brooms sweeping in front of it so as to increase the flow of the rock so that it goes where they want it to go. I love this sport. So, you guys have to work as a team, but the winner of the lightning round must be the team MVP, the one who assures victory over these pretenders from Lucasfilm and Marvel. So, who's the skip on this team? Which one of you is best with the brooms? Who's best at knocking the other team's stones out of position? Who's best at kind of directing things and figuring out what the angles are? In short, who will be the MVP of the old school Disney villain curling team? The order in the opening round was Colin, Dan, Kit, Bob. For the lightning round, that will be reversed. So, Bob, you will start us off. Then it will be Kit, then Dan, and finally Colin. So, Bob, what are you going to do on the curling team?
This will surprise probably no one. His outfit is very cute. And it's got like a little bit of abs showing, and he's tight. He's a put together man.
Oh, yeah.
And so all he's going to have to do, I mean, these people, like, they have long lives. We do not see them with partners. They're probably, thirsty, as the young people say. All he will have to do is do a little bit of, like, covert stretching whenever they're trying to line up their shot. And they'll be like, oh, who's that handsome Cab Calloway man over there who is dancing up a storm on that ice? And then sometimes they'll hum, and they'll just be like, oh, I feel clammy all over, and I don't know why.
Bob, would you say that Dr. Facilier has body language?
I would. Oh, God. That part upset me so much as a child, and I didn't know why. And then, so he has Shadow Friend.
Right.
That's not his name, but that's what we're calling him, Shadow Friend. And Shadow Friend moves on the ice. He's undetectable. Like, he just moves with light, and he can affect the physical world. So he can just be like, doink, that moves out of the way, and then this moves where I want it. And so it's like having an extra teammate, but an invisible teammate who can, like, do stuff while everyone's distracted with how goddamn sexy Dr. Facilier is.
All right. Let's go to Kit.
Is there a limit on how many brooms you can hold? Because Ursula got this. Oh my god, she's got her 2 human arms, and like, you don't need all 6 fucking tentacles to like stay upright.
I'm gonna go ahead and say, given Morgana's experience with a large number of brooms, there are any number here available to you.
I'll just let Bob do the...
Thank you.
Do all the seduction stuff. You got this. So
like basically, Ursula is like fulfilling the role of both the people with the brooms, so that it frees up Facilier to be the seducer on the side.
Oh yeah, okay. You're gonna. Yeah, I'll totally let you like sabotage the shit out of the other team.
Right.
Seducier. Thank you.
Seducier.
Dr. Seducier.
Okay, Dan.
We see in Return of Jafar that Jafar is actually capable of turning himself into a group of people. Like, he turns himself into a bunch of masked riders that ride on magic horses, who he is also. He is also the magic horses. He's just going to turn himself into a one-man curling team. But the thing is, as the game starts going on, he's noticing some weird emanations coming from the end of Loki's staff. And so he's going to head over there and just sort of, try to strike up a friendly conversation. Be like, oh, I like your staff. Here, take a look at mine. And raise up the end of his staff directly into Loki's eyes. Hypnotize Loki for long enough that he takes the Infinity Stone from the end of Loki's staff. And basically just uses it to mind control everyone in the curling stadium and have himself declared the winner by default.
I'm just imagining now, like, Jafar goes in for the hypnotizing thing with the eyes at the same time as Loki raises the staff to his chest, and they just they just stay there forever.
They just end up switching bodies. Is what it is.
Oh, the Freaky Friday.
Freaky Friday.
Yeah.
Poor Loki.
I know.
That'll be your next fic, Bob. All right, Colin?
I think Hades' job on the team is going to be the sort of team strategist, because if you think about it, like arranging the little pieces on a board, like curling is basically like chess on ice. We see that Hades is really good at like, tabletop games and stuff. He's always moving his little pieces around to like make his plans.
I see you too read the wiki for...
Yep, we all read that wiki article.
Yes, the Wikipedia article on curling refers to it as chess on ice, which gave me an idea. Also, Hades is good at getting other people to switch sides, so he could probably strike up some deals with the other members of the team, maybe try and get some people to hop over to his side. He has fire powers and telekinesis, so he can selectively melt the ice and also move the pieces with his telekinesis. And also, I'm sure that everyone from the Hercules movie probably has a bit of an edge when it comes to curling.
Yep.
Curls in the Hercules.
All right, that's enough out of you.
There.
I love this. I'm just envisioning, like, Hades is throwing the ball around, or the stone around. Ursula is sweeping for him. Fucking Jafar is off having a staring contest with Loki. While Facilier is just, like, doing super suggestive stretches on the sideline.
I'm just imagining Vader's head turning, and you see Dr. Facilier stretching reflected in his lenses.
Well, we'll know the answer to who actually won the curling championship when we get the box office results for the live action Little Mermaid, Hercules, Aladdin, and Princess and the Frog movies. That's a question we can't answer. A question I can answer is who won this match. I hope I can answer that. I'm gonna go try, so I'll be right back. You guys sing to each other.
So Dan, did you see the episode of the Hercules animated series that where Jafar guest stars?
I sure did.
Yeah? What'd you think of that one?
I have to say, so for anyone who hasn't seen that episode, Jafar ends up in the underworld with Hades, and they like make a bet where they're like, oh, I'll bet that your hero that defeated you isn't so great. And so, like, Jafar goes to fight Hercules and gets beaten. And then Hades goes to fight Aladdin and gets beaten. And
well, he actually sends Pain and Panic to do it.
Yeah, because he doesn't ever get his hands dirty, as he says. And then Jafar comes up with the idea of pitting Aladdin and Hercules against each other. And, like, Hades' mind is blown by this idea. He's like, wait, an idea that doesn't involve monsters or titans? What is this? What is this madness?
Which was your favorite song that you got to revisit that you hadn't heard in a while?
It was actually a lot of like the second string, not very good songs in Return of Jafar that got stuck in my head, which bothered me. Like, what's the genie's song called? The one about having a friend. Like, I rode the raging rapids on the Rio Grande. You know that whole song.
That's great.
I decided to like double fist my Aladdins. I was on my TV watching the original Aladdin movie, and then on my computer on this very okay website, this very acceptable website to watch, I was watching Return of Jafar, and my God, the quality difference. It was so weird.
Was it like having like one of your eyes broken and the other one was fine?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh, like I would just look up and go, oh God, the animation's so good.
You
Look back
now
down and
have
go,
astigmatism.
Yeah, I will say I had only watched Princess and the Frog once before. Friends on the Other Side is such a good song. It's so good.
I rewatched it like several times because I love it so much. Oh my God, that whole movie. I'd forgotten like how I almost teared up watching it because I was like, a princess sings about having a job. Oh my God. Like my whole childhood, that would never even have fucking occurred to me. Oh, Disney. But I was shocked at how much I had missed Under the Sea. Whenever I heard it, I was like, it punched my soul full of joy.
Man, I didn't want to interrupt while you guys were talking about how great Princess and the Frog is, because God, that movie's good.
What about you, Miles? Which is your favorite song?
I think 6-year-old Miles will always tell you that Poor Unfortunate Souls is the best Disney song ever.
Oh, it's so
because
good.
6-year-old Miles is still faintly terrified by it.
Yes.
But objectively speaking, I mean, you can't beat Friends on the Other Side. It's so fucking good.
I mean, Keith David.
Yeah.
Anyway, this was a really tough decision for me, but I do think I've come to a conclusion. First of all, I want to say, Kit, your plan was glorious.
Thank you for at least that.
I just want to put that out there now. After everything I've heard, and I've been debating just the different arguments, and you guys were all kind of like, especially Jafar, Ursula, and Hades were really throwing heavyweight punches at each other. But, you know, sometimes when that happens, the fourth character just goes under the radar. And sneaks in, and I honestly think the person that I was most convinced will win this match is Dr. Facilier.
I knew it!
Oh, man.
Yay, Paul,
My friends on the other side have come through!
And like, I was trying to think. I was thinking to myself, like, am I just doing this because her arguments were ridiculously funny? And like, if I was, I feel like that would be legit. I've done that before, but it's not. Like, I really think. Okay, so during rebuttals, Bob, you slapped Colin down. The thing about the fates, he had no response. And like, I thought, Bob, honestly, you fucking killed rebuttals, which is not an area where you usually, you don't have
conflict.
You don't have the killer instinct as much. But, but this rebuttal round, man, I just thought you fucking destroyed it. So,
she believed in Dr. Facilier.
Yeah,
No, I didn't. I went in it with like, well, I'm not gonna win, so fuck it.
Honestly, the thing that really decided it for me was because I feel like he's the only one. He has, as you said, the friends on the other side and everything. But I don't know. It just seemed like Hades has the fates that he needed to get his plans from. Jafar needs somebody to rub the lamp, and like what happens with Jafar depends in a huge way on who does that. With Ursula, which was it was super close, but I just felt like she's a little too I loved your plan, but it almost confirmed to me she's a little bit too focused on these personal motivations and kind of outside factors that influence what she does, where I feel like Facilier is he's doing his thing, he's working underground New Orleans, he's fucking up people's lives, and he's totally self-driven and self-motivated. He gets his power from elsewhere, but in terms of, what he's all about, that's all him. So I honestly do feel like he would be the one to take this.
Good game, everyone, and congratulations, Bob.
Yes.
You definitely earned it.
Fist bump.
As long as it's not Dan.
As long as it's not Dan.
The American dream. I've taken over another country.
Probably
From the
Germany.
past.
So we want to thank all of our patrons who voted to make this particular match happen. We sent out the poll, it had a bunch of different matches on it, and this was the one that came out on top by not a very large margin,
very
as it turns out. It only won by a couple of votes. So
I kind of feel like we have to do the second place one sooner rather
well,
than later.
we'll see, but it's a matter of inches in these Patreon votes. So if you want to make your voice heard, you got to get on there. And when you do so, you will also be thanked, as Brad Baltman and Blue Perry both were during this episode, and as all of our patrons will be.
Brad, I made you an indignant peasant wizard, and Blue, I made you the Snow Queen in disguise. So, you guys should become Patreon supporters.
You too can be an indignant peasant wizard.
Speaking of Patreon, Dan has started putting up his league notes, and he calls them the DM screen.
Yeah, because my initials are too good not to use like that.
I just wanted to remind everyone, all you need to do is donate $1 a month, and you have access to that patron-only content.
Yeah, at the moment, all I've gotten up are some of my notes on the way that I run the Marvel system.
Which is important, because he hacked that shit.
Yeah, I hacked it real hard. So you'll find my version of running the Marvel system on there. I'm going to be finishing up that section of notes in the next couple of weeks.
By on there, Dan, what exactly do you mean?
Those are up on the Patreon blog for patrons only. In the next few weeks, I'll be putting up my notes for the individual League episodes, so you'll be able to see the thought and reasoning I had going into each episode. I'm probably going to be posting some of my thoughts on, the philosophy that I have when I run games and some of the unexpected things that happen. So, if you're interested in that sort of thing, hopefully it'll give you some insight as to what the cause was that ended up being the effect of those League episodes. And
in the next 10 days or so, I will be posting my bonus content that you guys helped us achieve with your $150 a month goal.
I'm so excited.
Your votes have been tallied. And sexual things are simmering.
Oh, I'm so excited about the two characters.
I mean,
combined.
I would normally never say this, but Doom!
Spoilers!
Another poll decided by our patrons, and they came up with an interesting combination of characters that Meg and Bob is going to ship. So
bless you, people. Bless you, little monsters.
The other thing I just want to mention, Dan and I have purchased tickets to go see Mabim Bam and the Adventure Zone.
That's my brother, and me.
Yes, at their San Diego show, the one that's occurring at the same time as the San Diego Comic-Con. So if you would like to see us and you happen to be going to that show, just let us know. Let us know on either email or social media. We would love to meet you.
I believe that is on July 21st and 22nd.
Yeah, if you haven't already bought the tickets to Mabim Bam and Taz, you probably missed out. Their shit sells out quickly.
Probably.
But you might be at the San Diego Comic-Con. If so, let us know.
Yeah, just let us know what you guys are up to. And if we can meet up with you, we would absolutely love to.
Thank you to the Politipop Podcast, Paladin Today, Rafael Medina, Sharon Holden, Cosplay Fiend, Ion Trone, Jake the Fake Jake, Emlyn625, Jeffrey Ketchum, Sabina Mosher, Duffy, the You, Me, and Duffy podcast, Addis Son of a Gun, I love the new name, Sandwich Surplus, our beloved Sandwich Elemental, Azure Talon, Alan Kingsley, Matthias Tautimes, Christine Robinson, Vander Turner, pause for Doom.
Doom!
He says he screams Doom when he hears his name. And Florian, thank you for retweeting our episodes or just tweeting about us. Also, thank you to Tyler Folman for tweeting at Travis and Tybee to listen to our Calvin versus Doug Funny episode. Apparently, they're both big fans of Doug. Notice us, senpai! And then over to Tumblr, thank you to Sid Rapid Blog, Mr. Man 334, Anton Belaine, and Byforge and Fire for reblogging episodes. Over to Facebook, thank you to Jeffrey Ketchum for sharing our episodes there. We love you guys. Thank you so much for giving us an hour of your time and then also telling other people to do the same.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Smash Fiction, fully supported by our backers on Patreon. Next week, the Plastics from Mean Girls versus the Christian Jewels from Saved.
Smash Fiction is produced by Miles Schneiderman and production assistant Sharon Holden, with logo design by Colin Mulcairn.
Special thanks to Kevin MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod at Incompetech.com for our theme song, Hitman.
You can find us on Twitter at SmashFic Podcast and search for the Smash Fiction Podcast on Facebook, Tumblr, and YouTube.
Subscribe on iTunes or your podcatcher of choice, and if you leave us a good review, we shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Smash Fiction is made possible thanks to our supporters on Patreon at patreon.com/smashfictionpodcast. Please consider donating as little as $1 each month. It helps us keep the show going, and we have great rewards and extra content for those who help us out.
If you have any suggestions, feedback, or other contributions, send them to us at smashfictionpodcast@gmail.com and help us continue the fight.
So,
Okay, well, I disagree with that, but I don't want to belabor the point.
you can disagree with this dick, because she's coming out of the fucking ocean, and she's gonna scope the scene, or she's gonna turn Flotsam and Jetsam into, like, I don't know, what else is long? Like a snake. maybe like a
I mean,
long
that's not a question you want to ask on this
Sausage
podcast.
dogs!